Welcome to the Mind, Body, and Soul television show, coming to you live from our Denver, Colorado TV studios. Also running live on YouTube Live, as well as Google Plus Hangouts, and streaming on ConsciousEvolutionMedia.com. I'm your host, Coach Steve Toth. I'm also the founder of Conscious Evolution Media, and we have a very fantastic, very positive, and really cool lady. Her name is Charlie Emery. She's a personal strategist, an author, and a TV personality. And we're going to talk about how to live the life you love. We used to have a show like that on our network. So welcome to the show, Charlie.
Thank you so much, Steve.
It's so good to have you. You are so cool. So Charlie, if I take all these titles, personal strategist, author, TV personality, friend, maybe a partner, and all the other titles people have ever called you. If I take them all away, what's left? Who is really Charlie Emery?
Now you've really opened up the box here.
That's what I go for.
Yeah, well, you know what? Actually, the neat thing about
It's all about the box.
I am truly a sum total of all these things. I am such an explorer of life. I have been a problem solver, unbelievably, infinitely curious since I can remember. So really, all those other titles, they just come out of that curiosity that I had that then opened up these new avenues where I said, well, why not? Well, let me go over there. Well, let me see what's in there. Well, let me try that experience. But at the core, you know, I'm an explorer and a problem solver.
Awesome. So you like shiny objects?
I love shiny objects.
I knew it. All right, so just talk a little bit about your background, so people, just a summary, just people understand how you got to do what you do today, which is all the things we just mentioned, especially being an author, and you're running a beautiful website, by the way. Congratulations! It's an awesome website. And how did you get here? Like, what did it take? What's your journey? It's been like to get to this place?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I am definitely somebody who comes from the trenches, and as early as I can remember, because I grew up to, you know, two great parents who were struggling with extreme prejudice by being a mixed race couple in Boston in the, you know, late 60s, early 70s. So my experiences with kind of getting those knocks in life started so early. People did horrible things to us personally to give us that message that said, you're not welcome, we don't want you, we don't like what you are. So that set me up for a big life lesson of learning self-worth, because of course you feel like you have this mark against you, and then you fall prey to this idea of being perfect because you think, well, I've got to be as perfect as I can because I already have this other mark against me, and this is the only way that I'm really going to make something of myself. So it was an interesting...
But gee, Charlie, you are so likable. How is that possible? I mean, the first time I saw you, and this cannot be just me, I mean, your persona and your personality and the way you look and the way you carry yourself, it's like you like an angel. You cannot be not liked.
Well, thank you so much. And I sometimes feel like I went through this process like a diamond, you know, where you're kind of in all of this muck and stuff, except you have to figure out how to break out yourself. And the exciting part about it is that it's possible. And I think that too often in life, people don't harness that power because they get so caught up in what they think they shouldn't have experienced that they don't recycle the experience into insight that propels them forward. And that's really where my work comes from. I don't have the degree, I didn't go to school, I didn't take any coaching programs or anything like that. It was really me doing my own work because I endured a couple of traumas in my late teens. I didn't know how to handle them. I felt because I needed to be perfect that I just couldn't be me anymore. And I literally became this other person for like 7 years. I put on 50 pounds and I just loathed everything about myself. And there was an incident that actually just really kind of woke me up to the point where I said, okay, something's wrong. I don't know what it is, but the first thing I can do is lose the weight. So I lost the weight, and you feel like this amazing rock star, say, wow, and then all of a sudden a few months later is when the post-traumatic stress started. So I thought, I was always kind of into doing things a little bit different, and I wasn't going to go to a therapist. I thought, I'm going to do Reiki, because my doctor said something's trying to come up. We can't find anything every time you get rushed to the hospital, so this looks like post-traumatic stress. So I did this course with a girlfriend of mine, and that just opened it all up, and all of a sudden I realized that every single element almost of my life was a lie. I mean, except for the music I listened to, everything else was just, it was someone else. And I was so fascinated by it, because as a child, I'm a high intuitive, always curious, always studying adults when I was little, trying to figure out, why is she doing that when it seems like she wants that from him, and now she's definitely not going to get it, and I was always in that space as a child. So when all of a sudden it came through that experience, I thought, how did I get here? And having that insight come to me, remembering what I told myself at the beginning before I repressed those traumas, was like oxygen for me. And I started realizing, wait a minute, in life, no matter what it is we're doing, no matter what pattern it is, what we're experiencing, anxiety, there's something else that we are answering that is in conflict. So if we can find that piece, we're going to save so much time. We don't need to go through everything. We need to find those specific pieces, and they are the key to removing the mystery, so we can shift and have the confidence to put those new strategies into place so we get what we want.
Amazing. So let's talk a little bit more about these this notion of yours. Well, it's not really a notion anymore. It's your practice about this recycling business. Get a little more clarity for us. What do you mean by recycling the experiences?
Well, for example, I repressed this trauma for 7 years, and so that was 7 years of my life I couldn't get back. And it was, a huge chunk of my 20s. And I thought, wow, okay, I can't get it back. And if I just focus on what I feel like I lost, then I've completely lost. And it wasn't that I was anti-therapy. I just knew it wasn't what I needed. I knew it was going to be a long process, and I didn't want that. I thought, if I were to use the 7 years, I feel like rising above the experience, as people say, still kind of felt like work. And I thought, no, you know what? There's got to be a way for me to actually go through it and take pieces out of it that propel me forward even faster. And who knows, maybe my life will be even more amazing than it would have been without these experiences, as difficult as they were. Not that they were necessary, but since they happened, let's see what we can do with it. And so that was really where it came from, was this desire to give myself something as quickly as possible that I wanted, that I certainly had already taken away from myself because of these fears and these pressures that I put on myself in terms of who I needed to be. So what I do with people is, I did that work myself because I couldn't find anybody that would. I went to some therapists in Boston. My boss recommended. I told them what I knew and what I felt, and I said, can we just sit down for an hour or two, and you can show me where else I can map this stuff, because I get it. And they said, oh, I know it feels good, and we're happy and proud of you that you did this, but it doesn't work like that. And I just felt like, well, it's the beginning of my healing process, and to me, not listening to my instincts was not a step forward. It was actually another step backwards. So I started doing that work and exploring all the self-help stuff and, reading Eckhart Tolle and all these wonderful books, and I got these great insights, but I kept noticing that I could sit and teach a seminar for 3 days, but it wasn't truly showing up in my life. So all this knowledge was getting lost in translation. And I started looking at that and saying, why is that happening? And that's when I started realizing that even though all those insights are wonderful and they help us, the real answer, again, is going and figuring out what is the mandate, what are the beliefs and the rules that we're actually following that cause us to do something different than what we know we should do. Or if we do what we know we should do, why do we feel anxiety about it? Or why do we struggle with it? And it all came back to the same thing. And so when I did that, I literally transformed every part of my life. And then I started working with other people. And it was like, I call myself a mental archaeologist. Because when I was 5, I said I wanted to be an archaeologist. I thought that was the coolest thing, to reveal these mysteries. But when I found out that people just kind of picked spots and dug to see if something was there, I was like, oh, no, no, no. No, I need to know that something's there, and then I'll find it. So it's kind of funny that it would end up in my work where people come to me and they say, this is what's going on. And I go, okay, well, now we're going on an expedition. We're going to find it. And if you can imagine being in that position where, you know, maybe you've gotten lots of advice, maybe you have put these things into motion that really should have, you know, yielded something, and you're thinking, what's going on? And then all of a sudden, it's kind of like stars in the sky where they just look like a bunch of dots until somebody shows you what the constellation shape is, and all of a sudden all the dots are connected and you see it. That's what I do with people's experiences in their lives, and I draw it all the way back to what those core things are that are creating the havoc. And when we do that, it's like you are totally released because you see it. There's no more mystery. So now when we implement that new strategy, you're totally confident because you understand why everything else wasn't working.
Got it. So what it sounds like to me, also you have a really nice way of describing all of this, but it sounds like to me you're really getting people to go inside of themselves and figuring out who they are. And
yeah, that is part of it. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and once people know who they really are, then there is a filter. I mean, I use it as a filter for myself. That what do I allow myself to say yes to, and what do I say no to?
Yes, and you know, from the time that we're really young children, we're so naive, and I've actually found this to be even harder for people who are very intuitive or who are drawn to spirituality and evolution. We're kind of the toughest because we start out so young already trying to figure all this stuff out, and yet we're children. So what happens is we create all of these associations that aren't accurate, and they become embedded in our physical and more like our emotional and spiritual DNA. And we're listening to those, and they become parts of who we think we're supposed to be. And lots of times we adopt things that aren't ours. They could be our parents. They could be something we saw. We could have just seen something because we were naive. We didn't really know how to make sense of it. But as children, we try to make sense of it, and so we create these equations. So a lot of what I'm doing is going and finding all those equations, finding the inaccuracies, and helping people not only go, oh, no wonder why, so they have that relief, but then I will help them figure out exactly what they need to do to shift it and what they do to have that long-term success. So the results are really fast with what I can do with people.
Awesome. So how did you attract all the people in Hollywood? Like, you work with famous people. How did you accomplish that?
Well, when I came out to California, I was moving, and I mean, I was doing like commercials and things like that, and I moved out here so that I could do a little bit more of the commercial stuff because I was writing, and you know, writing is not always the easiest way to make a living. So I was working with clients part-time, and this has always been a thing for me, is I work with people so quickly that they're like, yay, Charlie, I'm done, that's amazing. And I'm like, okay, where's my next client, you know? So I thought, let me do a little bit more of the commercial, and then I ended up getting cast in this movie, which was never even made, but it was fun, and I thought, wow, I like acting. So then I started doing some acting. I got a couple parts. I got part of Screen Actors Guild, and just as that was starting to roll, I had this pull to write my first book. So I started writing the first book, and then that kind of shifted things where I started getting put on to come on as like a thought leader and talk about things, not just relationships, but other things. And then with Opening Act, that was a really big deal. That was Nigel Lithgow's show on E, and that came just literally out of the sky. Somebody working on the show knew of me, and they had this musician who was so talented, and he was freezing up in the producer booth, and he was supposed to open for Lady Gaga, and they just loved him, and they said, we have to help him. They had already brought a PhD on the show to work with somebody else, and it didn't work out, and the crew didn't like her, and they said, we can't use any of the footage, and it didn't help. So somebody said, look, I know someone who's totally different. She's not a book person, but she gets results, and she gets them fast. So we were able to do this session on camera for, you know, an hour and 10 minutes, and just totally shifted everything. And now he's traveling all over. He's up for musicals. I mean, it's amazing how much his life has changed.
Wow, very cool. So it's probably word of mouth now. You're getting clients in the entertainment industry through word of mouth?
Yeah, it's always been by referral or people finding me. They find me through my books. And so I have a clientele that extends out to Australia, which is really neat because really what I'm doing, I can do Skype, phone, or in person for people in Southern California. So it doesn't, it really doesn't matter. We can get the same thing accomplished. But, we're at a time now where people need to conserve their resources, and they feel so anxious to be able to say, oh, please relieve me. So as more people start finding out that I'm here, they're pretty excited to know there's someone they can work with and get so much accomplished in such a short period of time, which is also a big money saver.
Yeah, cool. So let's see, would you be open to like do a little example, and I'll be your guinea pig, just to show off your talents and your intuition and what you do and how you work. I think instead of just talking about, a lot of times people like to talk about these things on shows, but I like that too. But I like to also use, either actual examples from your own life or do something on the show that's going to get people engaged. Like, this is how she really works in real life. So we haven't discussed this, right? We haven't talked about any of it.
No.
So I'm open to just tell you what my deal is with relationships. Is that something you feel comfortable doing?
Of course.
I got to get your permission. So here's check the box and say. Okay. So it's going on 10 years now. So 10 years ago, I basically hung up my old life and my old habits and started a new life because I had to the death, or I would have taken my life. So I just said, okay, 10 years ago, I'm going to create this network. At the time, it was called Real Coaching Radio and TV Network, and then it's got transformed into Conscious Evolution Media. But I put 10 years into this work, and I really did it for two reasons. One is, for the public, and another is for myself. I wanted to be an example of what's possible. And everything that I've been doing in the last 10 years is for me to become a better human being. And I'm still working on that. I'm not done, and I probably won't be done even after I die. But so the legacy that I'm interested in really leaving is that this network is really based on walking the talk. So how I want to walk the talk with you is I had a sex addiction before, and I really one day just said, that's it, it's over. And I had a gambling addiction, and one day I said, that's it, it's over, I'm done. If I continue that lifestyle, I'm taking my life because I don't want to live this way. So out of that was born this, and 10 years later, I still haven't dated a woman. And I have grown. I feel that I have grown so much. I am not the same person. I recognize that I'm a different person than who I used to be. I know that I'm a different person. And it would be probably a completely different relationship than any relationships I have ever done. And I do understand now, why I attracted the kind of women I attracted, and the agreements that I made with them and myself. It would be a completely different experience. But what's interesting is that I keep saying to myself, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready, but she's not here, and I'm not really looking.
Yes.
So it's like I would love to have a different experience than the ones that I've had before when I was, I guess I could say, I was not conscious or awake. But it's like, I'm not going to chase anyone, and I don't really want to be chased either. I just would like to have someone come into my life that I could have an awesome experience with, like your title on your website really speaks to me. How to live the life you love. Like, I would like to experience a relationship for the first time that I would really love, and it would be a relationship where, I feel that I'm complete. I'm complete with myself. I love myself. I don't need another person to complete me. That would not be the reason that I would be attracted to someone. I'm looking for someone who would have similar interests than me, and we could have lots of conversations and do similar things. I mean, I have certain things that I love, but I love broadcasting. I love television. I love talking to people. I love, going to concerts, art. I love the art. I mean, I'd like to share the experiences that I'm having now with another person. Does that make sense? And I feel that the way I used to make, well, no, I never really made love. I had sex. I think now I am ready to actually make love, which is different, very different.
Right. So
your turn.
So my question is, what's the worst case scenario about dating a woman or finding yourself in another relationship with a woman today?
The worst case scenario?
If there was something that you were afraid of based on where you used to be and where you believe you are now, what is that?
Well, that is the exact stuff that I'm not doing. I'm not going to bars. I'm not going to all these places. That whole scene of looking for somebody, I'm just not willing to do.
Okay. But that's one way of looking for somebody. So there's a difference between saying I'm ready for love and I'm open for love and then actually welcoming love and facilitating that to happen. So on one hand, what I'm hearing right off the bat is, I'd love for her to arrive. I'm not looking for her. She better find me. I'm not sure how she's going to find me. And then there's this other side where you're sort of equating or associating this idea of even looking for a woman with all of the negative ways that you looked for women in the past or the places that you looked for women in the past. There's a lot of other ways to welcome a woman and, in a sense, kind of keep an eye out. It's not necessarily that you're going out seeking her, but you're saying, you know what, I'm ready for you to come in, and you open up the avenues to meet her. And it sounds like there's sort of this it's one side or the other. Either you're in all these awful places looking for the women from the past, which of course you're not going to do, or you're just sitting here having all these great experiences thinking how nice it would be to share them with another woman. So those are two different extremes. So we got to get you back to the middle where we say, okay, great. Yeah, not doing that, but on the other end of the spectrum, it's a little bit of a block, and it keeps you hidden from the very women that you want to meet.
Well, it's like so Charlie, it's like this. So, and I hate to refer to the past because I don't want to recreate the past. Like, that's the only reference point I have right now because the future hasn't happened yet. But it's this thing that when the few times that I've been in love in my life, it happened when I least expected it.
Yes.
Like it just all of a sudden magically occurred. And I would love that if that could happen.
And that is wonderful, and yet we don't have control over how love comes in our lives. So, if you kind of send this message out to the universe that says, well, you need to bring her just magically, unexpectedly, just drop her out of the sky. You've told the universe that this really wonderful wish you have for a relationship, that it needs to squeeze it through like the head of a needle. Instead of giving it this really wide range of ways that it can connect you with this wonderful woman who could be a fantastic part of your life. So we also, when we want something, we have to be humble enough to say, well, let's give the universe some real latitude here in terms of how it can bring it. Now, that can be you letting people in your life who know how wonderful you are, because, I mean, I can feel your spirit. I know you have so much to give. But you have to let people know, hey, I'm ready. And I am totally emotionally available for this really cool woman. So introductions are welcome. And I assume, I mean, you talked a lot about what kind of experience you want to have, which is fantastic, because that's usually one of the main reasons why people don't attract what they want. They think about these people and these characteristics rather than the experience they want to have in the relationship. So I hear you wanting to be able to share.
I want to play. I want to laugh.
Yeah.
I want to feel like I'm 16 again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and so taking those things and thinking about what is the woman, what are some of the characteristics or some of the places that this woman who's going to be able to create this experience with me probably has or hangs out or people she knows, and get more active. Because if we're back here saying, I really want love and I'm ready, but I'm just going to keep my headphones on and do my show, and
Well,
somehow she's going to
yeah,
show up.
I'm not
It's
making
you
any
just
effort. That's
you know
correct. Yeah.
yeah. And so what I do want to make sure of is that we can actually use our past so incredibly. They are, no matter what we've gone through in the past, the past is a tool. And that's why I think recycling it is so important, because a lot of people think that just getting over it and making peace with it is what it's about. But I think it's more than that. Because when you actually can look back into the past and you can say, what did I actually learn about me? And what are the pieces from those experiences that now empower me so I am that much more of a catch? My relationship has that much more of an ability to succeed. I'm that much more clear about the woman that I want. Then, instead of the past just being what it was, it's something that you actually draw power from and appreciate it. The same way that I was talking about recycling those 7 years. Those 7 years were very difficult, and there was a darkness around them because of the nature of what even caused that. But at the same time, it's still a part of my life, and I didn't want to look at it as just this block of time that didn't have value. So it's absolutely good for you to glance at the past. You don't want to stare, but strategically comb through it and say, you know what? What are the pieces that only going through those experiences, or going through those experiences rather, that they gave me? What did I really learn about me? What drove me there? And I don't know if you got really clear about what
No,
drove you into those patterns or not. I'm not sure
no,
because we haven't talked about it, but
no, I'm very clear.
okay, great. So then you use those pieces and you think about what it is that you want today, and you have to look at how you're interacting with your desires. And if you have a fear, and there's that little bit of fear of, what if I go here? What if, I asked you, is there something that you would be afraid of today? And what was interesting is you just jumped right back into, well, I used to do that, but I'm not going to do that anymore. So is there a fear that beginning to seek women or to really open yourself up to this relationship that in any way is going to push you back into that space? Is there any fear of that?
No,
For sure?
for sure. No, 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 no,
Okay.
no,
Here's the
no,
thing.
no. Because I don't have those motivations anymore that I had before. I really don't.
Yeah. And I don't think you have the motivations either. But the bottom line is, when we've had an experience, there can be a little bit of fear of like, oh my God, what if that happened again? Even though I know I'm not going to do that. That's just a trick that the mind plays. So what I like to do with that is just, I have a little fear exercise. And it's really just, whenever you feel a little bit resistant, because there's obviously, I understand the part about, hey, the best experiences came unexpectedly. I think a lot of us have had those and they're wonderful. But there is a little resistance that I can feel intuitively to really opening up. So right now, intellectually, you're like, I'm ready. But on the inside, there's resistance. The resistance always comes from some sort of fear. So if you can explore it, and this is like anybody that's watching, you can do this for any part of your life. You ask yourself, okay, if I was afraid of something, if there was something that made me nervous, and that's what created a little bit of, okay, but not too fast, or I'm not all the way in, or what is it? And then look at it. Just like, because our fears are like the monster in the closet. And what you want to do is not just look at what you're afraid of, but then look at what you're afraid of and say, okay, well then, what's the threat behind that fear? For you, just as an example, well, I'll give you an example for me, okay? When I went through a divorce, and it was really hard because I really, really loved him, and the things that tore us apart were really not about he and I. It was about issues from his past. He was Native American. I couldn't do it anymore. There was nothing I could do. It was his choice. And so finally that meant the end. It was very difficult. After that relationship, I got a lot of clarity, which is all in the book. But when I started dating, I started getting nervous. And I didn't realize it was on the inside that I was going to make this really difficult choice and have this really hard challenge. At first, I didn't realize it. So I just was attracting men that they weren't bad guys, but they were never going to go anywhere. Then I realized, wait a minute. I had this fear. And the fear was that I'd choose the wrong guy. The threat behind the fear was that I'd marry the wrong guy and then I'd have another divorce, which I felt was terrible to have. When I identified that, I said, okay, what would I do? If that worst case scenario came true, I would forgive myself, I would do what needed to be done, I would look at it closely, take those pieces I need, and I would go out there and do an even better job. Once I did that, I could release that fear because I already had a game plan for the worst case scenario. So it was no longer the monster in the closet that I was afraid to open the door on. Once I did that, then I could focus on the best case scenario which was, all right, you have all this information, use it, and lead with what you want, knowing that your job is actually to focus on that experience you want, and as you're meeting people, be curious as to how they fit or conflict or relate with the experience you want to have.
Wow, amazing stuff.
It works with everything, and you would not believe how fast. I mean, we have so many people on medication for anxiety today, and think about it. Anxiety is caused by a fear of the new and the unknown. We're built for survival. So our egos take everything that we know and calculate out what's about to happen so we feel safe. Whenever we're making any kind of change in life, we don't have that information yet because it's new. So we get this anxiety that says, oh, I don't know what's going to happen. Just the same as even if you know what you want, but you really know deep down inside that you're not doing anything that's aligned with you getting it, that will also create anxiety because you're not taking any proactive steps in your life. So of course there's a fear of what you're going to end up with because you could end up with anything. But we're at a time when everything's moving at the speed of light, and so there's so much change, there's so much going on around us that really for most people they haven't gotten a chance to catch up with themselves, so they feel anxiety. But if we could just break down those moments quickly with a simple exercise like this, we get to know ourselves better, we get to uncover the monster in the closet and realize that in most cases he's like this tiny little figurine that we can go, thank you so much for that information, and move forward.
Awesome stuff. Charlie, fantastic. All right, so I think I know what I'm going to do next, which is we're going to complete the show because I think I lost sense of time because we had some issues in between the two shows, but I'm going to edit it out like I promised. But you were absolutely fantastic, Charlie. I've got so much out of the process that you take people through, and I'm going to take this to heart, and I think I need to find this resistance that you're talking about, because obviously it's there. I've been sitting on my butt for 10 years, and I haven't attracted the love of my life, so I'm responsible for that. It's not her job, it's my job.
Well, she just can't see you yet. You know, it's literally, it's kind of like, it's such an amazing thing because
where the heck
when you have resistance, it's kind of like there's a sheet over your head. So the woman, you could have passed her 10 times and she just didn't recognize you. She couldn't see you. It's the same thing, you know, I get so many women over 40 and I say, oh my gosh, you guys, stop trying to compete with a 25-year-old and live your life with enthusiasm. There are so many men that are thrilled to find a woman who's older, who's got life experience, but if you aren't enthusiastic about your life, then of course they're going for the younger woman. She's more fun.
Yeah, I think that resistance you're talking about is probably a repellent.
Yeah, it is. It is because it's you sending out a vibration too that says not yet.
Not yet.
So you're in this push-pull. You know, intellectually yes.
I'm interested, but not really.
No.
I'm really interested. I'd like to, but not now.
Exactly. And I actually had an offer for your viewers, so you can include it if you want, and you can
Awesome.
use it if you want. But I built a page on my website that is just it's just charliesense.com/Coach Steve. And I did like a really big discount just for people that are watching your show on account of, and I had no, so crazy because intuitively I had no idea that you were going to do this, but because you just mentioned really quick in passing this idea about relationships, and I figured, oh, we're going to be talking about love, and he'll probably mention, he hasn't been in a relationship for 10 years. So I did this thing in honor of you being ready to let love in your life, and I did this big discount on people and said, you can use it for other areas of life, but anyway, I built a page there. So it's
Awesome.
charliesense.com/Coach Steve.
Wow. Awesome. Thank you. I will take you up on your offer, and hopefully many other viewers will take you up on your offer as well. All right, fantastic, Charlie. I had a great time with you. You are so much fun. You are just a shining light. That's all I know.
Oh, thank you. And anytime you want me back, just let me know. And if you need
Absolutely.
anything, shoot me an email. Nan
Yeah.
has my best email, though, because I don't really use this email. I use my
The Gmail thing. Okay.
charliesense.com.
All right.
So,
Very awesome. Thank you so much,
all right. Have
Charlie,
a
and thank you
wonderful
for
day or
thank you for
evening.
being on the network. And I love you guys all, and be back again next week. Everybody have a wonderful 4th of July, and see you next time, same place. Bye bye.